Welcome to Big Impact Louisiana. I'm Shacole, and today we're joined by David Horchar, Executive Director of Family Reach Alliance of Southeast Louisiana, formerly Family Promise of St. Tammany, if you remember that name. They're on a mission to guide families experiencing homelessness towards sustainable independence through housing, education, and advocacy. So I'll give him a minute to introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about him and introduce some of the work of Family Reach Alliance.
Good morning, Sherco. How are you today?
I'm
Uh,
good. I'm good today.
Good. Like you said, we're Family Reach Alliance. We're just over a year in our new brand. We changed brands last July, but we've been serving families here in Southeast Louisiana since May of 2015. So we're actually in our 10th anniversary. So we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary at
Congratulations.
The Maritime Museum in Madisonville. It was standing room only. We had some guests told me that they had to park in Covington, so we were well loved and folks turned out for us. So we appreciate that. So like you said, we've been serving families since 2015. We help families with minor children
Hmm.
uh, basically overcome homelessness and get into housing and give them the tools to maintain that housing ongoing without having to come back to us. So we've helped well over 200 families, families that successfully graduate the program, maintain housing at a year and beyond at well over 90%. So if they put in the work and they follow the case plan, they're the sky's the limit. It really is.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about some of the community partners who have opened their doors with you guys, with some of the struggling families, and how that role is being played in your relationship with those programs.
Sure. Well, we have a very unique way
Mhm.
in which we serve families. And here at the Willie Peretti Day Center on the Safe Haven campus, that's where all the business happens. That's where the families have an address to be able to apply for benefits, look for work, get the kids re-enrolled in school, get the kids to school, and just wash their clothes, have an address, just to be able to have a place to call home. Then at
Right.
night, we have a network of local churches and congregations that for a week at a time, they open their doors for our families to sleep at the church overnight. So
Wow, that's amazing.
it's a beautiful thing because when you think of a church at 10 o'clock at night,
Hmm.
there isn't a whole lot, there's nothing going on. Everybody
Right.
went home. So what they do is they create safe spaces at the church for folks to we bring the rollaway beds. They set up private bedrooms for each of our families. They can accommodate up to 5 families at a time, and they give fellowship and mentoring, a warm meal. The kids get to play basketball with the volunteers and arts and crafts. So from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, they're with loving community members that just pour into these families and give them advice and help lift them out of poverty and homelessness. Then every morning they're vanned back to us here at the day center for the work piece of it to work on overcoming all of the hurdles.
That is great. And I love how you got creative with this to find solutions in your community and to work with everyone. How did you start building these partnerships to even get to this point? And because I think that's something a lot of nonprofits struggle with is trying to build, the first steps to getting to partnerships to be able to do some of these creative solutions.
Well, as an affiliate of Family Promise prior
Mhm.
to our change, our network, we had a huge network of churches that were looking for an opportunity to serve, and churches are always looking for a mission.
Mhm.
So we bring the mission to them. They don't need to get on a plane or a bus or a truck and go find the mission. And I will tell you, as a Family Promise affiliate prior to becoming a Family Reach of Southeast Louisiana, we were part of a national network who had been in business for over 40 years. So the 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 best to dos were already there.
Mhm.
So the St. Tammany Parish government was a big supporter of ours. Former parish president Pat Brister helped call community meetings of church leaders. We had some volunteers that just went out and knocked on doors, and they built this great network, and I was fortunate to inherit it in 2017.
I'm glad. That's great. So a couple of questions just about the data and impact. Family Reach, I know for a fact, because we've worked with you guys around tracked outcomes like housing stability and self-sufficiency. So how do you guys use the data to measure and enhance your impact in the community right now?
So we use the HMIS system, which is the Homeless Management Information
Mhm.
System, which is managed by you all, and it's critical for us to be able to see a family. We can track them ongoing. So
Mhm.
what we are able to do is we're able to look at a family situation. We look at the data that we've collected from previous families and say, okay, well, this worked for them. You're very much like them. Let's try this path. So it works out really well. So uh, tracking data has always been like key. It's
Mhm.
paramount. It's truly paramount to because while every family is different, many of them are the same.
Right.
It's the same hurdles. It's the same barriers. So having it documented in systems is just makes it streamlines it
Mhm.
very much so.
Can you share, if you can, a data informed like insight that you've learned that helped shift, how you provided services since you've been, taking closer looks at your data?
Well, we have found that we end up serving a lot of single mothers.
Okay.
So while we do serve single fathers, we serve two-parent households. The
Hmm.
bulk of our families are single mothers. So
Okay.
what we find is in homelessness, and I'll dive a little deeper into this. In family homelessness, when it's the mother who is the head of household, where
Hmm.
there's not another head of household with them, we have found that domestic violence has been a root cause at some point in their journey of
Right.
homelessness. So we're able to extract that, and we're able to work with our domestic violence providers while they're not currently in crisis. We're able to help them get some of the services to help with their mental health, to help with their overcoming, the tragedy of the past.
Hmm.
That's been tremendous.
Wow, that's great. I'm glad y'all are able to use it in those types of ways to help with impact. I know that's something that a lot of programs are starting to try to think of different ways just to get creative with their data and to see how those things can help us transition our resource management. So
Yeah.
I applaud you guys for that.
And we use what we call a life area survey, which is about a
Mhm.
20-point questionnaire
Oh,
that
okay.
covers everything from mental health to physical health to food insecurity to transportation. So
Mhm.
what I do is we'll calculate a family based on those 20 categories, and I
Okay.
give kind of a beacon score.
Hmm.
And I have found that when families arrive to us, that beacon score is usually between 40 and 60.
Oh,
But
wow.
when they leave us, they're at 85, 88, 90,
Mhm.
92. So each of those hurdles, barriers are captured in the life area survey, and we're able to help them overcome that.
Mhm.
That we can show them, hey, just like when you were in school, you take a history test and you score a 40.
Mhm.
You're like, oh man, I need to study
Right.
harder. But then you study a little bit, then all of a sudden you have a 90.
Hmm.
You feel so much better about yourself. So, well, it's detailed in what we do on our end, but we're able to present it to the family and say, well, look what you've overcome.
That's great. No, that's great to be able to show that.
40 or 50 points. So
Hmm.
nobody's ever gotten to 100. I don't think you and I are at 100.
Right.
Nobody's
Yeah,
at
I don't think anybody would.
but for somebody to go from a 50 or 60 into the
Mhm.
high 80s or low 90s in a
Mhm.
matter of 90 days
That's
is
amazing.
tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
How did y'all come up with this survey?
I inherited it.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, we had a board member who was working with it at another
Mhm.
agency, and we adopted it, and it works wonders.
Great.
Works. It's different domains. It's the 20
Mhm.
domains, and part of it is even is spirituality. We don't force church or religion in any way. However, if we say, if you had a church home at one time
Hmm.
and you want to go back, we'll help you do that, no matter what that is. So, and I think having, every bit of support is critical,
Hmm.
no
No,
matter
that's
what
great.
it is.
So I want to talk a little bit about your journey and leadership style. So what actually inspired you to want to lead Family Reach Alliance, and how has your background shaped your whole approach for doing
Well,
this type of work?
I ended up here by accident. I
Really?
think we all, I
You
think
know, I
we
hear
all,
that a lot about people who work in it within human services. It's always by accident, because that was even me.
yeah. I had a rolling career in corrections. I was a correctional officer.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and injuries dictated having to change.
Hmm.
I was at St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office correctional facility. Then I went to the Office of Juvenile Justice. Injuries dictated a change. I ended up at the North Lake Homeless Coalition as I believe, the very first street outreach navigator. I worked the 5 parishes, driving around, checking on
Hmm.
folks living in encampments and taking people to appointments and getting them assessed and getting them in the pipeline. And then I worked with families at Family Promise at the time, Family Reach, and an opportunity for leadership came about in late 2016. And I applied in January 3rd, 2017. Here I am.
Wow. That's definitely a journey.
It is. Yeah, like I said, when I just ended up here by accident.
How do you balance like your compassion and accountability and leadership style when guiding families towards independence?
I just talked about this with someone the other day. Fair, when you're working with families, fair isn't always giving them the same thing.
Hmm.
Fair is making sure each family has what they need to overcome their specific set of circumstances.
Hmm.
And sometimes, unfortunately, we do have families who just don't want to follow rules.
Right.
It happens, or don't want to just don't want to just don't want to put in the work.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we do have to ask those families to leave because there are dozens and dozens behind them who do want the change. They do
Right.
want the change. So, unfortunately, we do have to make those decisions. While it's tough decisions, the wins outweigh the losses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Understood. What would you say are your personal values that drive your decisions, particularly as you work with abroad, like working with the volunteer networks, the boards and partnerships? What do you feel is like really driving some of your decision making in these moments?
I have a tendency to live in the light, no matter what it
Mm.
is, no matter how hard that decision is, no matter how distasteful it is, no matter how ugly the information is, I share it. I want to put it all out there. I want everybody to, we as an organization really live in the light.
Hmm.
I even put our line item budget on our website. So you can look in there and you can see what I make, what
Hmm.
everybody makes. You can see what we spend on communications and internet. Everything is there. So when somebody wants to make an educated decision to
Hmm.
give, they know where their money's going.
Right.
Yeah. So just live in the light.
I love that. The transparency. I truly enjoy. I love
Absolutely. Full transparency.
that. What advice would you share with other nonprofits leaders seeking to lead with both impact as well as with empathy?
Um, I think I have a very unique background that has
Mm-hmm.
led me to this. So I have a leg up because I've been able to work in an environment that was full of violence yet and compassion at the same time. Not everybody. If somebody out there is looking for a nonprofit worker and they can find somebody who has worked in law enforcement, I encourage them to hire them because they've
Mm-hmm.
had to have compassion in a world of violence, and it makes your decisions quick. You're able to make a decision very quickly, and hopefully good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just life experience, just living life, and running your organization in a way that if you were gone and your family needed that organization, that they would get the care that you would give
Hmm.
families.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about what's next for your organization overall, but also I want you to make sure you talk about this thrift store and how you even came up with the idea. And because I think the journey is kind of interesting and it might inspire some people to
Yeah.
keep with their ideas.
Don't ever be afraid to take a chance. You
Hmm.
know, we are wagering big on this. You know, in a time when funding is unknown,
Right.
it's ever evolving, ever changing. You know, the giving landscape changes all of the time.
Hmm.
About 8 weeks ago, maybe we'll just say 8 weeks, a little longer, a little less, we had a vision of a thrift store.
Hmm.
Um, I went and I met with some of our other nonprofit partners here on the North Shore who operate thrift stores. A, I wanted to hear their advice, and B, I wanted to share with them what we wanted to do because I didn't want to step on toes.
Right.
And I will say I met with Habitat West, I met with the Samaritan Center, and I met with the North Shore Food Bank. I met with all three of those ladies, tremendous group of people. And I said, this is what we want to do. And they said, instead of saying, well, you're going to be competition, they have done nothing but help the entire way. We've talked about collaborative marketing. We've talked about how we can help each other, our little niches, what they can sell, what we can sell. They've shared policies, they've shared budgets, they've shared
Wow.
everything we could possibly need to get us to where we are today. And
Hmm.
from 8 weeks ago, we're hoping to open August, mid August.
Wow.
That's that, yeah. So if you have an idea, go with it, run. Just take a chance because the worst case scenario is it won't work. Yeah, it won't work. But if it does, you've waged a little to gain a lot.
Right.
So, but
Um,
yeah, so it's been a very, like I've told you offline, we're lacing up the shoe, but not in order. Like we're just
but it's getting done though.
it's getting done. We're cleaning bathrooms with water borrowed from neighbors in the complex, and we're painting. And we have a contractor, Vocal McWilliams, helping us to get the subs in there to get everything done. So it's going to pay dividends in the long run for families that we serve.
That's great. That's really great. I'm really excited and I can't wait to come to the opening myself because I have to see this great project that y'all doing. Anything else that we should expect to see next from Family Reach coming up or
Well, and I have a vision that we of course we don't have enough beds. We never have enough beds for the people that
right.
we serve. Sometimes it takes longer for people to overcome their hurdles than others. So, what I want to do is I want to create some transitional housing eventually. So,
Okay.
where folks can come into shelter, they can step down the transitional, then
Hmm.
eventually into permanent housing. So,
Okay.
and I also want to have a deeper relationship with Habitat.
Hmm.
Eventually, want to move them from homeless to homeowner. Our associate director, who is the going to be the future of this organization when I'm gone, is actually a Habitat homeowner and a graduate of our program.
Oh wow, that's so great. Oh, I love that. It's so great. And
So
how can we help you guys going forward? What can we do, the community at home, at large?
every nonprofit's going to say give, 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 but you know, one of our most powerful tools is our social media channels and our
Hmm.
free marketing is to go on there, give a like, give a follow, give a share, give a comment. So help us grow that network because there are a lot of good organizations and they can't get the work done because nobody knows who we are.
Hmm.
So if more people knew about the organizations, that we're on every major social media platform. So go on there, give a like, give a follow, give a share, and that tremendous. That is tremendous impact to a nonprofit, that has a minimal budget,
Hmm.
uh, and who's just trying to do the work on a shoestring.
I'll make sure to tag all of your social media for everyone to link to. I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for coming on your show, for your leadership and your insight. We've been working with you here at V-Link for so long. We enjoyed the work. We love how passionate you guys are about everything you're doing, and we wish you nothing but success, especially with this thrift store coming up, because I'm
I know.
excited to see how everything actually moves with this project and moves forward for everyone in the community. So thank you so much.
May I add one thing that
Yes.
our relationship goes much deeper than people realize. That your CEO,
Mm-hmm.
Alondra, is actually the coordinator, volunteer coordinator at one of our host churches.
You're right. Yeah. A lot of people don't know. Yeah, she does a lot of volunteer also outside of her
Yeah.
work, which is in the same field, which is funny.
So I wanted to give her kudos for that, for stepping up and taking that role. So thank you, Lavondra.
I'll make sure she stays and sees this whole part.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your
You
week.
too, Chercole. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.